everyone. We're back for Q&A with your questions that have been submitted to us that we're so grateful for. So, we're going to start with the first question, which is a question around, how to read the signs, how to sort of like understand when someone is on the right path, when it's time to change the path, when it's time to commit or keep your options open. And I think that question a lot of people have on their mind in different ways when they are creatives. I mean, when they're human and also when they're creatives. So, what are your thoughts, Stephanie, around that? It's such an interesting question.
It's a really interesting question, especially as a an artist, as an aging artist, which several of my clients are. Um, if their career hasn't gone exactly the way that they had set out in the beginning for it to look, um, the question that comes up a lot is like, how long do I keep doing this? You know, um, it's so hard to answer that question because I think it's such a personal decision. But I think what it is you have to weigh um, how much fulfillment you're still getting out of the path that you're on with the art, versus how much grief it's causing you, and weigh it. And if it's still, if the passion and the love and the everything is still outweighing all the grief, then maybe you stay with it. But if it's like, oh, it's just too hard to live this life, and it's hard for me to keep up, and the grief is like, then maybe you find something to balance it out. Like, people talk about survival jobs, and actually, I have a client, this was several years ago, this was before the pandemic, that she was having this question, this struggle, and she decided to go into real estate. She got a real estate license, and then just kind of keep theater on the side as for her passion. And I checked in with her. It was a couple of years after we had met, and I checked in with her, and she was so much happier, actually, having a job that was consistent,
Yeah.
um, and then just doing the like local community theater to keep her passion alive and really
Mhm.
deriving a lot of pleasure out of it. And then who knows? And she was like, I might come back into the arts full time. Who knows? But I needed to have that balance for a little while. So I don't really know. I think it's a personal journey for each individual, and it's something that we can't answer for them. But I think that's my best attempt at answering that, is like, when it's more of a hardship and when there's more grief than good stuff that you're deriving from it. That's because you have to think about your everyday life, you know,
Yeah.
from day to day. How am I feeling? How am I showing up? And yeah, that's my best attempt. What's your take on it?
I think that's a great attempt. And when you were describing, the situation with your former client, what came to mind for me is that sometimes this idea of what path do I take and, when do I change course? I think it's so difficult because as creatives, oftentimes we forget that we get to define our relationship with our creativity. We're so
Hmm.
bombarded with, you're not really a singer unless your life looks like this. You're not really a musician unless your life looks like this. Oh,
Right.
if they don't pay you, then you're not really this and that. Or if you don't have these many albums. So sometimes I think that people are scared to consider different paths because they think,
Hmm.
oh, but then I will no longer be a creative or I will no longer be this.
Hmm.
And I think it's good to remind oneself, like, you get to decide what being a singer means to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I think there's a lot of disempowering information out there.
Absolutely. Yep.
And something else that I would say is for people who are thinking about paths, and I've done this in my life creatively, professionally, personally, like think about what the path you're on would look like 5 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
think about the people that you already know that are sort of like 5 years ahead.
Right.
Maybe look at them. Are they happy? Are they not
Mm-hmm.
happy? Are they stressed out? Do they always complain that they don't have time for their family? Are they always scrambling? Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
there's, and of course, everyone is different. Everyone handles it
Right.
differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's value in taking that information into account too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny, like some people I know I can think of a client right now who if I had told her the story of my other client who went into real estate and she's found a balance and it was better. I can imagine, I know her reaction would be well, no way. No way. I can't do that. And like sometimes even if it's a hardship and even if it's just the most difficult life and it's just, you know, challenge after challenge after challenge, some people do have that, but this is all I can do. This is all I can do. This is because I cannot do anything else. Like there's that drive. And then, who are you to override that?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. 1000%. Yeah.
I think, too, be careful about reading the signs that you are given or that you see because remember, yeah, there's signs out there, but it's all up to your own interpretation of it. So um, just really go with your instinct and your gut and don't rely too much on the universe is going to give me the signs. Really you have to trust your own intuition, your own gut.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so important. I'm very inspired by that. And the next question we have, two, two, two. I guess the next one I'm going to pick because I heard so many people relate to this is, I guess, once again around the theme of empowerment. So, a question around when you are in a certain role, musically or creatively, and there's so much input from the other people on the team or the other people on the cast, and it could be the people who design the costumes or the people who do the music direction. And the person wants to stay true to their creativity, but then at the same time, there's all this other filtering going on that can
Mm-hmm.
feel disempowering. How can somebody stay empowered and stay themselves creatively, even though they have to sort of integrate and take all of that stuff in? It's an interesting question.
Yeah. Boy, so you're speaking more, can we get a little more specific here? Or do you know
Yeah.
the specificity of it? Are we talking an actor
Like, for example, if we're
in a
talking a
cast?
singer,
Okay.
imagine a singer songwriter who,
Okay.
has their own singing style and they write their own songs. And of course, in the process of music production, there's other people who are like, hey, how about you sing that line differently? Or how about for this concert you dress like this? Or how about,
Mm-hmm.
that guitar solo really goes like this? And they're trying to, stay true to themselves and stay, their true creative self while
Mm-hmm.
integrating all of this other stuff that at the end of the day can also kind of feel disempowering because somebody might get on stage with their guitar and be like, well, really, this is not the solo I wanted to play, but it was kind of changed. And I wanted to sing this melody line a little bit differently, but they said that it would sound better if I sang it like this.
Yeah, that's a tough one too, especially like you sign a record deal and the record company um, then tells you what you're going to look like, how you're going to dress, how you're going to present, what your vibe is going to be. Um, that's a tough one because you have to weigh, okay, what is this being signed with this label? Uh, what is this bringing me? This is bringing me really good things, exposure and sales and all those kinds of things that you want. But how much are they asking you to compromise of your real self? And then how disempowering is that? Um, yeah, I mean, my advice there would be to maybe sit with what's asked of you as far as making changes or I would say be open first and really sit with everything that's thrown at you and everything that's asked of you. And then again, weigh it out in your conscience and in your like in your artistic conscience and in your just personal spiritual conscience. Am I changing or giving up too much of myself for this? Because everything that's thrown at you is going to have a purpose. Might be somebody else's purpose, you know. But if it's part of a team, everybody on that team, the purpose should be to make the best art or to make the best product, to reach the most people, to whatever it is, to put on the best production. Everybody's interests should be aligned on that team. So if you first think collectively about, okay, let's say the costume designer wants me to wear this thing and I'm not comfortable with this thing. Really check it out. What are you not comfortable about? What are you not? Do you feel like it's you're too exposed, let's say, and you really don't feel like you feel unsafe being that exposed? Let's say if you're a female artist and they're asking you to wear something really skimpy and you're really not comfortable with it. Okay, like kind of what level of uncomfortability are you dealing with here? Or is it like, I just don't like the way this looks on me. I don't like this color. This isn't the most me, you know, and and then and then weigh it out, because like you want to speak up and you want to assert yourself in the instances where it is important for you to make your voice heard, and but in the battles that don't really matter that much, like if it's just a bad color on you, or do you know what I mean? Again,
Yeah.
we're trying to talk specifically about a kind of really big thing, a really broad thing.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to make up like certain examples.
of course. Yeah.
But like, I think, I don't know, that's my take. Like, really weigh it out collectively first. Try to see like all of the reasons for these things coming at you, and then really ones you're going to get that feeling inside, that feeling in your gut that's like, oh no, this is really not right.
Yeah.
Speak up at those. And I would say for the rest of them, maybe try to see the bigger picture. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's truly great. That's, and you know, I love the scenarios because that's what we get with very big questions. And the other thought that I was getting was, you know, when the person is on stage, you know, and they have to deal with all these things that don't really feel like them. Everything you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. Like, kind of feel it and see what really feels wrong and what you can
Mm-hmm.
sort of deal with.
Mm-hmm.
The thought I was having was, remember why you're on that stage. Like, what is your bigger purpose? And
Mm-hmm.
then what of those elements is pushing you out of that or pushing you away from that? And what is just kind of there and not great, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
getting in the way of your purpose, so it's fine.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a much more concise way to say it.
No, I think that you have a very practical
I
way
have
of saying
a
it.
tendency to blab on about these things. Yeah, I mean, these are hard questions to answer because, you
Yeah,
know, I mean, there's so many different variables, and but they're big questions that come up all the time. So,
they're
yeah.
big questions. That's why we have office hours and workshops, y'all.
Exactly. That's right. That's
Come on
why we
in.
do it.
Yeah, I think those are the two main ones this week, at least in terms
Cool.
of like grouping them in themes. And yeah, I really think that we had even a larger theme going on today, which is really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, bottom line, you guys, trust your gut, trust yourselves, trust your intuition. If something really doesn't feel right, sit with it and figure it out why it doesn't feel right, and then assert yourself, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
that's kind of the bottom line for me.
absolutely. And remember
Yeah,
to get support. You're not alone.
absolutely.
You can
Right,
take a moment, you can ask for somebody's
right.
opinion. you can ask someone's viewpoint on a situation. Like,
Right.
take a moment. You don't need to react. You can respond.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're here for you if you
Yeah.
need us.
And yeah, I mean, and just a reminder too that our whole point of doing this Q&A is just to kind of bring up the topics, but not like to answer everything and put it in a, a package with a red bow. So like if this just then kicks up more questions or you want to talk further about this, like about specific things in your experience or whatever, that's what we're here for. I mean, this Q&A is really just to get these conversations going because I
Yeah,
think a lot of these questions are shared experiences among, you know,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what we're here for. So, contact us. How can they contact us? DM,
DM
sign in
us,
for the
leave comments if you
office
want.
hours. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can pop in office hours, come to the workshops. Yeah, we're here for you. And as you know, our social media is always active. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks for submitting the questions.